Hello everyone, I'm KK. In this video, we will learn Python tuples. All data cannot be stored in a file. Oftentimes, to be useful, data must be ordered in a sequence. Python offers several ways to store and work with ordered data. Lists are the most common tool, but there is a smaller, faster alternative, the tuple. Tuples are immutable sequence of Python objects, just like lists. List contains sequence of data surrounded by brackets, while tuple contains sequence of data surrounded by parentheses. Other than notation, there seems difference between these two. In both cases, you can use length function to display number of elements in the sequence. We have taken a list primes which contains first few prime numbers, also a tuple squares which contains perfect squares. To see the contents of both primes, which is a list, and squares, a tuple, just print both and see the output. Let's run this code. You can see the contents of list and tuple. Now we will display the length, that means the number of elements in both list primes and tuple squares. Let's run the code. There is no difference so far. In both cases, you can iterate over sequence. To show this, let's iterate over the list of prime numbers and then the tuple of perfect squares. Then run the code. Again, identical behavior. So, to see the difference, let's display the methods available to lists. Print a line of dashes for clarity. Then display the methods available to a tuple. Let's run this. If you disregard the standard detained methods, you can see that lists have more methods available to them than tuple. To demonstrate that, import the sys module. Sys is short form for system. To see the available methods, print the directory for the sys module. The function we are interested in is the getSize of function. If you call the help function, you see that this function will tell you the size of object in bytes. Let's use this function to compare size of a list and a tuple holding the exact same data. Let's make a list with the variety of elements and the tuple with the exact same elements. And finally, we will display the size of these two sequences. As you can see, list occupies more memory than the tuple. When you work with the big data sets, this can be significant. Imagine working with the dataset containing 100 million lists or tuples. The bytes quickly add up. Another difference between lists and tuples is that you can add, remove, and change data in lists. Tuple cannot be changed. They are immutable. Once you make a tuple, it is set to stem. Knowing the tuples cannot change enables Python to make significant optimization. For example, tuples can be made more quickly than lists. Let's use the module called timeIt to see how long it takes to create 1 million lists and 1 million tuples. First, import the timeIt module. The timeIt module has a function with the same name, timeIt. The first argument in the statement containing a command we would like to execute. Here, we will make a short list of integers. Next, we enter argument with the number of times to perform this command. Let's do this 1 million times. The output of this function would be the time it takes to make million of these lists. We will repeat this test by making a million tuples. Finally, we will display the 2 times. Let's run this. On a relative basis, it took much more time to make the list than the tuple. Imagine the time difference when working with billions of pieces of data. By now, you should be convinced that tuples are useful. So, let's cover the essentials for working with tuples. Tuples use parentheses to make an empty tuple. You simply write pair of parentheses. Let's quickly make few test tuples. Next, let's print these 4 tuples. Then run. Here see the value of test1 tuple. The tuple contains a single element, looks different from the others. It looks like a string and not a tuple. That's exactly the case. Test1 is a string. To make a tuple with just one element, you need to type a comma at the end, like this. If we make the change and rerun, everything is now a tuple. Before we explain the things behind the tuple with one element, I would like to show you another way to make a tuple. If you want, you can leave out the parentheses altogether like before. To make a tuple with one element, you need to end with a comma. If we print each item and its type, we see the all 3 tests are in fact tuples. Let's now examine the eccentric behavior of tuples with one element. The reason for this is a feature called Tuple Assignment. Suppose you are working with a large data set containing 3 pieces of data about each person, their age, country, and whether they know programming. Perhaps this data was collected in a survey to study the popularity of programming. We will store the results for each person in a tuple. Here, see information for a single person from the survey. To access the data, it attempting to extract each piece of data individually. As with lists, you can access elements by index. You can go through my video on lists, which can contain full details on indices. We will print the values to make sure this method is successfully working. This works. But tuples provide faster alternative. Consider a second survey, survey 2, where age is 21, country is USA, and the third field is false. You can assign all elements in a tuple to different variable in a single line. This will assign first element to age, second to country, and third to knows programming. Python unpacks all the values and assigns them for you. Print each value to confirm whether it works. And we see that it works. Tuple assignment explains the need for trailing comma when making tuples with a single element. According to the rules of tuple assignment, this would assign a string Australia to the variable country. By adding the extra comma at the end, you are telling Python that here you do in fact want country to be a tuple, and you do not want to unpack the value into the variable. Please make sure that the number of variable matches the number of elements in the tuple. We will take the 2 cases. Here we do not have enough variables to hold all the values in the tuple. Running this causes a value error. Similarly, if you have more variables than elements in the tuple, Python will raise a value error. There is no room for sloppy behavior when working with tuples. That's all for this video. You will see dictionaries in next video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the learning. Thanks for watching.